Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. My name is Matthew, and today we're going to be doing a ranking video of all my Godzilla versus Kong, I was about to say Godzilla Kong the New Empire, Godzilla versus Kong Playmates figures that were released from 2020 to around 2022 or 3. I want to say maybe 2022. But as you can see here, we have a bunch of the Playmates Godzilla figures that I own. Keep in mind, I don't own all of them. I own a majority of them. The ones I am missing are the Hong Kong battle variants. I'm missing the Warbat, and I'm also missing the Supercharged Godzilla and Antarctic Kong. So that's all really only 5 figures out of all the ones I'm currently having. And I also don't have the Battle Roar Kong and Mecha Godzilla just because I my spoiler on this guy, but I just didn't think he was that great in comparison to the others, and I think it's fine being the only one I have. But again, I put him in here just because it wouldn't be fair for me to just leave him out because he's so similar to these guys. It's basically in scale almost. So without further ado, let's go ahead and rank these guys. Keep in mind, again, this is the ones I own, so there. Coming in at dead last, we have the Playmates Battle Roar Godzilla 2021. And again, I want to stress that I do not think any of these figures are outright bad. I believe that a lot of these figures have some good and decent merit to them. But that being said, this figure just has a lot of problems that I honestly consider this the only real dud in my GVK collection. I'm too used to the new movie. I should have done this video like years ago, but whatever. The reason I consider this kind of a dud is just because, one, it's pose. Like, Godzilla swooping up his tail and looking up just kind of doesn't really make sense to me. I know it's like for a toy gimmick, but it just doesn't look that right. The neck looks too extended, and the dry brushing is just caked on. Like, look at this. Like, look at how much dry brushing is here, and like it's just so drippy. It just looks so uneven, and even when we go to this side, there's not as much of it, but yet it's still caked on. And even when we go to like the painting on the tail, it was fine on the original Battle Roar, the original Heat Ray Godzilla, but this is just, it's so big and thick of the tail, like, it just doesn't look good. Also, the spines got a huge nerf. Like, they look more puffy than they do spiky. And another thing I just don't like is, again, just the fact that this thing is so small, because Kong is about as tall as he is, but he's like standing on 2 legs. He's not looking up. And Godzilla, if he were to look his head up, would be about the same size as these guys, which is a different scale. But on the positive side, the articulation's nice for what you get. You get some rotations at the arms, rotation at the legs and feet, and a nice big ball joint at the tail. And for what it is, the Battle Roar gimmick is actually pretty good. Honestly, I'm thinking the battery's starting to die because it sounds a little higher pitched, doesn't it? Although I guess if it was dead, it would be starting to lower a little bit. But I've also had situations where it just doesn't roar, and I don't even like roughhouse with this thing, so it's kind of pathetic quality. Coming in at number 7, we have the Playmates Skullcrawler with Heave. And I have to say, this is probably the most, or at least was, the most unique GVK figure we've gotten for at least a little while, because as you can probably tell, this was like our only actual 6-inch scale Skullcrawler action figure, because Leonard, actually not McFarlane, Leonard was the only ones who made a figure like this, and it was of a dinky little juvenile Skullcrawler from the Skull Island line, Kong Skull Island, King Kong Skull Island, whatever. But as you can tell, it's certainly got quite a bit to him. It's got like the nice kind of red paint job, and it looks really good. And I also have to commend them for what it is. It's that, for Skullcrawler, they did nearly the most what they could have done. And Again, I don't think that this is a bad figure. But that being said, also don't think that this is an absolutely great figure. The reason why I say this is because, one, the accessory just kind of doesn't make sense because it's a heave. The heave and the skull crawlers were never on screen together, and it just doesn't look like it's appropriate. If you go back to my original review, I gave a better accessory suggestion. In the same way how the Godzilla and Mechagodzillas come with the beam effects, I believe that they should have outright unsculpted the tongue, which is just more of a basic looking tongue instead of a skullcrawler tongue, the multi-tongue ending thing, and actually have a peg hole on the top and just put in a tongue like that. Maybe put like a bendy wire in there and make it look a little bit more flexible. That would have been a cooler accessory. But alas, that's not what we got. We got this. And also another problem I have with it is just the battle damage, how unorganic it looks. Now I know it's a big chunk of flesh that rips off. It's a toy, but something that the other releases have had was at least battle damage that looked organic. This one, because of the sharp corners, just doesn't look that good. I feel like if they would have like not done this sharp L and like maybe just kept it a bit more up here, that would have looked better. But alas, that just it I mean, again, it's what it is. And but for the articulation itself, like the ball joint at the tail, the swivel hinges at the shoulders. Yes, these are shoulders. Look at them. That is clearly an elbow. And we also have swivel hinges at the elbows and a hinged jaw. Like, again, it's actually got some pretty good merits. I like it. Again, I just don't think... I think that they should have done a little bit more, like maybe adding a tongue accessory and polishing up the battle damage. Just get rid of the heave, too. But again, totally fine on its own. Not a bad figure. Coming in at number 6, we have the Kong with fighter jet. And I pretty much have to re-explain this. Mine did not come with the fighter jet, because I got this thing used on a secondhand site, and part of a lot, I guess. And for what it is, again, it's not bad. I really dig it. I will say it's a bit on the more iffy side as far as like the overall quality of it, just because like the dry brushing just kind of doesn't seep well with the pack color and like the gray that it uses instead of like the black on black that the Kong with Battle Axe uses. But again, I would actually debate that the gray actually looks better than the black of the original. And also battle damage still the same, and it also has a different expression, which I do like. But again, mine did not come with the fighter jet. I mean, it's a little tiny 2-inch piece of plastic. It's not like I'm missing anything. But again, has the same kind of posability that's still pretty rock solid. Swivel hinges at the shoulders, swivel at the head, swivel hinges at the elbows, swivels at the wrist, swivel hinges at the hips, and hinges at the legs. Knees, I mean. So, overall, not a bad figure. I just think that the competition is just a bit more up there, I guess. Coming in at number 5, we have the Playmates Mechagodzilla with the heave. I'm sorry if I keep mixing these things up. It's hard pretty much looking at one when I'm literally seeing a bunch of Godzilla Kongs and Skullcrawlers and Mechagodzillas all in one set. That being said, this thing is quite a really good figure. It's got more paint than the Battle Mechagodzilla does, and I would even debate that this thing is actually a bit more screen accurate because of that, because it's got a bit more red on the chest and has some detail in the mouth, like some additional kind of coloring on the bottom jaw that helps it separate from the original, the other Mechagodzilla, which I do believe still has that mouth paint. But, like, it's the same color as the body, so it really doesn't do much. So why is this so much lower? Or why is this at least lower? Well, basically speaking, this thing is kind of obsolete. And I hate saying that because this thing is a really cool figure. It's my first 2021 Mechagodzilla figure. And the problem with it really is just the fact that the other one has the very thing that people will just be wanting more of. I mean, would you rather want a proton scream, or would you rather want a heave with your Mechagodzilla? These things, again, were not on screen together, and maybe it's more like an Apex package. Although, if you're going to make an Apex package, actually, wait, no, here's what they should have done. A Skullcrawler corpse. Ooh. I mean, they probably would have been a little too graphic for kids, but why not like a building or some form of like something that's not just another heave? Plus, the heaves don't even like color match. This was before they were like camouflaging the heaves. Like, why not just like a flashy color like they were in the film? I mean, y'all made the Hong Kong battle variants, but as for the Mechagodzilla itself, it's a good figure. Nothing's like inherently wrong with it. But again, I just feel like there's a better option out there on the market. Coming in at number 4, we have the Playmates Godzilla vs. Kong Heat Ray Godzilla, which you might be shocked as to why this one's a bit more lower on the list as opposed to being much more higher praised. Well, objectively speaking, this one's actually my favorite one of the bunch, but just because of the novelty. However, I'm merely judging it based on the quality of the figures in question and the overall looks of it. And I have to say, this one kind of is a bit more on the side. What do I mean by that? Well, let's see. I just think that the blue wash it has is done alright. It's definitely done pretty well, especially for like a $10 figure. But I feel like my main problem is just you scuff the mouth over time as you use it, and not to mention the beam just kind of droops over time. Like it was originally like this, now it's like that. And another thing I also want to point out is just how prone this thing is to paint chippage, even though this is like again a $10 toy, not expecting like the most of quality. But you know, again, for what it is, it's not bad in the slightest. I have to say that it's my favorite one, objectively speaking, but it's not the best quality wise, which is kind of what we're looking for here. And plus, I just think that the one from the 2024 movie, Godzilla Kong the New Empire, just does it a little bit more better. Had it had the translucent fins and the dry brushing, that would have been the peak of the figures. Coming in at number 3, we have the Battle Axe Kong. And I have to say again, this is like the closest thing I have to the definitive 2021 Kong. The definitive one is the Haya, by the way. And I have to say, like, again, this thing does so much right. There's really nothing inherently wrong with it. And that was until I got my hands on some of the other Kongs and realized some things that were wrong. But talking, like, specifically about this version and this version only, it does a lot of things good. The eye application is done really well, and the dry brushing of black is done really nicely. And it's overall got some nice coloring variety to it with browns and kind of grays and like you have the 3 slashes. But just kind of comparing it to this one, even though I've already compared them in the last video, it's the scarring is a bit more thinner, which I kind of prefer, and the dry brushing is not as intense as it is on here. And it also, the black isn't really accurate. It's more of a gray color in the movie. But again, totally fine on its own. The Battle Axe, I wish I had a bit more color variety, but the blue is actually done really nicely. So, and also the opposability. What is there else to ask for? Swivel hinges. Oh, I already went over it. Swivel hinges at the elbows, shoulders, and hips, and then hinges for the knees and swivels for the feet and hands. Or sorry, the hands and head. So really, this is like the most well done, I would say, objectively speaking, but definitely not like the highest quality of them. Here at number 2, we have the Playmates Godzilla vs. Kong Radio Tower Godzilla. And the reason why this isn't number 1 is just because of a few reasons that I got on my release, which I think I should probably point out. First thing is, mine does not have that much paint on the tail. In fact, there's nothing at all. And I will also say that I kind of wish the accessory wasn't just a radio tower, and he never attacks a radio tower in the movie. Maybe at one point he was supposed to have a scene where he does attack a radio tower, and they just said, screw it, let's release the figure anyway. Or they just needed another Godzilla to companion him with the other Heat Ray Godzilla to like even it out. Like 2 Mechagodzillas, 2 Kongs, 2 Godzillas, although I think it's like 4 Godzillas and 4 Kongs now. Yeah. But objectively speaking, this is probably better. Well, at least to me, it's better than this one is. Why? The color just appeals to me a lot more. It actually has a bit more of a better appearance with the lighter, kind of nail color as opposed to the lighter nails on the darker figure body. And I just like the way that it's sprayed here. Again, I also like the translucent plastic, but it just looks better for me. Also, the orange eyes, I do like them. It just pops a bit more because it's much more vibrant. And the accessory, it's alright. It's soft plastic. It feels like right here where you kind of grasp it, you just like shear that right off. But for what it is, again, not bad in the slightest. I think I just got a little bit more of the dud. And finally, for number one, I have to go with the the Battle Mecha Godzilla with the Proton Scream. The reason why is because this thing is so cool in a lot of different ways. First of all, this is like the only, I believe, one of the only 6-inch Mecha Godzillas with the Proton Scream. That, and it's also like the most affordable one you can get, coming in again $10. But another thing to point out is just the translucent plastic is actually done again really well. Granted, it's not accurate, but at this point it's less about accuracy and more about how it's executed. I will say I wish there was a bit more color variety. Like they added the red on this one, but they got rid of it on this one. And the battle damage and the bottom jaw paint is just kind of camouflaged all in. But again, it looks the part. It does what it's supposed to do, and it does it pretty well. The only thing I feel like the Mechagodzillas don't do very well is stand up straight. Because Mechagodzilla is known for standing a bit taller than Godzilla himself is, and because of how loose the legs are, like, I'm barely putting any effort into, like, moving it. Like, it's sagging back down, even just at the slightest push. Like, I'm barely putting any weight on that. So, it's a bit on the more iffy side. Also, beam, not very sturdy, but again, I feel like it's just the overall presentation of this guy that just makes him objectively the coolest and just the perfect companion piece to the Heat Ray Godzilla and the Battle Axe Kong. That would be the battle to end all battles. I would like take it and just ram it right into the other ones, but I don't want to skip any pain. But with that being said, thank you guys for watching this video. I really had quite a bit of fun talking about these guys again because it's been quite a long time since I really even, like, did some new reviews of Playmates Godzilla vs. Kong stuff. And I know I do have quite a bit more to actually get if I want to complete the whole line, which I don't intend to just because, like, on shelf space. Because right now, all my Monsterverse stuff from Kong Skull Island to Godzilla Kong the New Empire share one unique part of my shelf, and these guys take up so much of said space that I have to start getting rid of some figures, and I don't really want to do that right about now. But then again, I'm the same guy who bought like 5 versions of the 2021 Godzilla. Anyway, thank you guys for watching this video. If you guys liked it, definitely subscribe to the channel. Believe in Jesus, I said, and as always, every day, spread the gospel. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out, everyone. God bless.